This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CEM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Manny, for that wonderful introduction. I am Downrigger Dale of the Montana Outdoor Podcast, also the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd love to have all you listeners all over the place listening to us regularly. Of course, we always like it if you share this podcast so we get more new listeners all the time. All of you have been so great lately in sharing the podcast with all your friends and all that. Remember, when you found this podcast, there's a podcast description. In that description, if you read through it, you're going to find lots of links, and you're going to find the link to Vibrant Hearing in this one, because they're my guests. Nora Martin and Alyssa Keith are joining me here. Now, you're probably wondering, well, we're talking about the outdoors and all that. Why are we talking about hearing and hearing problems and getting help hearing and all that? Well, it's because us outdoor folk tend to need our hearing and need it to be really good a lot, but we're also terrible on our hearing, and we don't take real good care of it. We use a lot of loud stuff, and so we're going to learn how to make your hearing stay better. We're also I'm going to quiz them on all kinds of ideas in that. But if you have questions after you listen to this and say, I wish he would have asked this or that, not a problem. We're going to have some emails that we're going to share with you. Again, in the podcast description, you'll be able to click those. Boom, it'll pull up your email program, and you can just write an email, and these two wonderful ladies are going to answer all those. And of course, as always, you can always email me, and I'm more than happy to pass on any things too. So feel free to join in after you listen and give us all those questions. So, ladies, let's start. Nora, with you. Nora Martin, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved with Vibrant Hearing, and give us a little of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us here. We really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
I am an Iowa girl. I started in Iowa and bounced around the Midwest a little bit prior to coming to Montana. Mm-hmm. Went to the...
We won't hold that against you.
Oh, cool. No, I definitely, I feel like Montana's in my heart, so I appreciate it so much.
It has a way of doing that,
It doesn't. It doesn't take very long either. So, yep, I'm originally from Iowa. I got my initial degrees in linguistics and German, and then kind of decided at the end of my degree that there was a lot of components of communication outside of linguistics and theory, breaking sentences down to smaller parts. And I really wanted a little bit more of a profession that I could practice. I could actively learn, actively practice, one that was going to be one that would ever be changing with technology and all of the new advances in medicine that would be coming up, and fell in love with audiology. I'm sure it was a YouTube video of a child hearing for the first time. Those usually kind of touch our hearts a little bit.
Yeah.
I was sold. I said, all right, here we go. So I got my doctorate of audiology at the University of Illinois in Champaign, and then moved out to Montana about 2 years ago and have been working at Vibrant Hearing since. It's been amazing.
Great. Alyssa Keith, how about you? Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so if you thought Nora growing up in Iowa was bad, I grew up in Southern California.
Oh, okay. Well, You might be judged, folks.
Just
Give her a minute
little. Just
before
give me
you
a
do.
minute. Give me a minute. I get it. I'm with you. And so when I initially started my education in college, I was under the impression that I would continue on to be a speech language pathologist and focus more on the pediatric population that way. And then through my studies in college, I was just really more drawn to working with an older population. So after about 4 years of that, I did graduate with my bachelor's in communication sciences and disorders. And shortly after I graduated, I just decided I'm going to move to Missoula, Montana. And I did. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to work for Vibrant Hearing because it was a relevant company for what I had studied. So I had just kind of walked in off the street one day and said, hey, I want to work for you. I don't mind what we're doing. I just want to be here. And then after about 2.5 years of studying, I became a hearing instrument specialist. And then I was doing a lot of industrial hearing screenings for companies that have a lot of noise exposure. So I got a certification in occupational hearing and conservation there. And so for a number of years, that's where a lot of my focus has been. But I've been in Montana for about 7 years now and don't ever want to go back.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere.
Yeah, got bit by the bug. Nora, tell us a bit about Vibrant Hearing. How long has Vibrant been around?
I think that's a better question for
that
Alyssa. Yeah,
Alyssa question?
She's the history buff. I'll be honest with you.
All right. Well, tell us a bit about Vibrant and how long it's been around, and some of the main things that your company does.
Yeah. So Vibrant has been part of Western Montana for over 50 years. Granted, it hasn't always been Vibrant Hearing. It was Missoula Hearing for a long time. And as far as I know, it started as like a little shop in downtown Missoula and then has just grown over time. But it became Vibrant Hearing in about 2009, as far as I understand. And really what we focus on is like the ear to brain connection, the cognitive tie-ins to hearing loss. Our population is mostly adults, but we do see pediatrics. Shelby Matthews, who's another hearing instrument specialist that works with us, is really focusing on building the hearing conservation, the hearing protection side of things. And so I feel like we do a little bit of everything, jack of all trades.
Well, how I first heard about you guys and got introduced to you was my best friend, the captain of the Montana Outdoor Radio Show. Mark Ward's his name, but everybody knows him by the captain. That's pretty much what everybody calls him. We've been working together on and off for the last 40 years. And one of the things that happened, and we spent a lot of time together, we began at a young ages working together in radio. And then as time went along, we ended up becoming partners in business and have just always worked together, played together, all that. Everyone started to notice his hearing was just getting worse and worse and worse. And it became one of these things that that really you could tell bothered him. But it also would annoy you because, you'd say, hey, Captain, about what? And all this back and forth. And finally, I think one of his big things he was worried about is he didn't want to look old or that.
Totally.
We finally talked him into, you really should go get your hearing checked. You should really. And he went to Vibrant and he just changed his life. It just flat changed his life. All of a sudden, he was back to his old self again and was really, this fun. He was always this fun-loving guy, but he kind of got more and more withdrawn because he couldn't hear. And, he couldn't, so many times he would just kind of give up because, he couldn't hear across the room or in a loud situation. And he got these his hearing aids just keep getting cooler and cooler. And they do all the things. And now, I mean, you have no idea he even has hearing aids, and it's amazing what you guys have done. So I can speak from experience. You helped my friend really, really just have a great life and do some great things. And now, the only thing that's a little weird is when his phone and everything is connected in there, his TV, all that.
He's tied in.
Yeah. And so sometimes he's talking on the phone, but see, he just can talk, doesn't have to put the phone up to his ear or anything. And I think he's talking to me. But I don't understand why he's saying stuff that does not fit our conversation. And then he'll finally look at me and go, Downrigger, I'm on the phone, okay? Oh, I see. But we've come to get used to that. The only thing that annoys me is, as you'll notice, I do talk a lot. And he has this cool thing when we're fishing, when he's tired of listening to me talk about all the fishing stuff and how much we know, he will just shut his hearing aids off.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't hear me at all.
Right.
But, I'm getting keen to that. Usually he'll just nod his head, and then I go, no, he's not even.
He's taking a break. He's taking a sensory break.
But what it has done is it's helped open up his life and back open in that. But because of that, he's learned about the importance of protecting your hearing and this and that. So that's what I want to focus on today, because when we get outdoors and we're firing guns all the time, and we're especially sighting in our guns, I mean, it's lots of repeated, very loud noise. And so we wanted to really focus on, hey, let's protect that hearing, and do that. So let's start there. We are just about to get into the opening of rifle season. This is, if you're a hunter, opening day of rifle season is like Christmas Day. I mean, it's so exciting and all that. But what we do is we spend a tremendous amount of time out at the firing range and getting that thing sighted in and all that. What I noticed when I was doing that is I would end up having ringing in my ears very loudly for a long time. What are some different ways that hunters can protect their hearing? Or is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I feel like
Melissa, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are aware now that when you're at a range or you're sighting in your rifle, that it's really important to wear hearing protection. And hearing protection really comes in like three or four forms, really. You have like standard earplugs that, there's those foamy ones. There's, ones that look like little Christmas trees. There's ear muffs that go over your ears that you can use. Certainly there's custom hearing protection that's like custom molded into your ears. And the benefit of that is that when you get it in, you're getting it in correctly every time, right? Because they're made specific for your ears. And then there's digital hearing protection, which, amplifies what's going on around you, but then compresses that sound once the loud noise is around.
Yeah, and that's the one I've got a few questions on that, because a lot of our listeners, and by the way, thank you for serving our country, but we do have a lot of military that listen, and there was some hearing protection that got issued to some of our military that was defective. You've probably seen the commercials on TV about that and that, and so that kind of opened a lot of our military personnel's eyes to, boy, this is important, because that was defective. Some of them were harmed by that. And so we realize, you're right, that it's important to do it, but we can avoid using it because, we want to shoot for a while, then we want to talk, and I've got to take them out and all that. So tell me about this product that can help so you can hear well, but then when you fire the gun, are you saying then it suppresses that? And how does it do? How do it know? How does it do that?
No. So the how does it know is probably a question for people who designed them. I'm not entirely sure how it knows, but once sound hits a certain level of like a certain loudness level, then the digital hearing protection knows that they need to suppress beyond that level. And so we know which sound levels are enough to start to damage your hearing. And the louder that sound is, the less time you can spend in that environment. So when we're looking at like a gunshot, we're talking like 140 decibels of sound.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And if you think about the conversation that the three of us are having right now, that's only about 55 decibels. So guns are quite loud. The digital hearing protection is meant to suppress sound once it gets to a level that's known to be damaging.
So then when that level goes down, it allows that protection to go away. So is this kind of an automatic thing then?
It is automatic.
Wow. Okay. So that's got to be a very popular thing, I would think, for the hunters out there. Do you, or is that a fairly new product?
I feel like it's been out for a while. Hunters are notoriously difficult because we understand hunters don't want to wear hearing protection. And I totally understand why, because it's so important to hear like where the animal's coming from, be aware of your surroundings.
It's a key sense that we use. In fact, not long ago, I was doing this podcast with a game warden, and he was talking about, hey, you really, because we're having a real problem with bears right now. Grizzly bears, they came back from the brink of extinction to now our big furry friends. We have a lot of furry neighbors now. And he was saying how important it is that we use all our senses, especially after we've killed a game animal and maybe we've hauled part of it away. Now we're coming back. Well, the bears will smell that and want to come claim it for their own. So as we're walking up to a kill site, we really need to use all our senses. Bears have a certain smell to them, so you want to smell it. They also make certain key noises that we go, oh, that's a bear, and things like that. And so we want to have all that. So yeah, I can see where hunters, we go, I don't really want to wear that. Yeah, I don't want to hurt my hearing, but it becomes more than just heightening our skill of finding game. It's personally to protect us so we can watch out for things using our ears. So this is a great product then. Are you getting more hunters that are starting to learn about this? Hopefully those of you who are listening right now are going to say, hey, I need to call Vibrant and let's go look into this.
We have. The only downside really of digital hearing protection is that it doesn't amplify things louder than like what normal hearing would provide you. So if there's already a hearing loss present, then it may not be enough to amplify so that you could address those safety issues. I think, Nora, you've run into that once.
Yeah, it's a matter of usually the preference of the patient. A lot of these, one of the benefits of those electronic hearing protectors is that you can create different programs, or more rather back up, they're pre-programmed programs that can have different sorts of settings.
Oh, okay.
So like what Alyssa was saying is that it's automatically going to amplify everything a little bit more because we're plugging up your ear, right? It has to make up for some way of letting that sound in to allow it to measure that signal and then cut it off when it gets loud enough. And when we add these different programs in, it can be a lot of different ones. Some of them have what we call telecoils. So when people are trying to hear on the phone, if they do any talking on the phone and it's not a standard device that pairs to Bluetooth or anything like that, it can help with that. There's also some like different variations of volume levels and then different frequency emphasis that you can have in each program. So sometimes there's one that's like a higher frequency one, and that helps make, sounds of leaves and those softer sounds be a little bit more crispier, so to speak, and have you be a lot more aware of them. So there's that variation as well. But it has come across our path that if we have a hearing loss that's pretty significant, more than a moderately severe type or degree, getting that volume level can be difficult. And so then the purpose of them is kind of defeated if they want to, if people want to be communicating or hearing their surroundings a little bit.
Well, and especially if we hunt together, we do a lot of whispering, so that could be an issue. Now, are there hearing aids that can kind of do the same thing?
You asked it. It's so loaded. Yeah. That's a very loaded question. That's one that we get quite a bit when we have new hearing aid users a lot. Well, can I hunt with these? The short answer is no. Please don't. The whole idea, kind of what Alyssa was saying about when sound comes into the device, it's measured at a particular level. Audiologists and hearing instrument specialists, we know exactly what that level is. Mm-hmm. And so theoretically, there are some times where you can stop where a hearing aid is going to amplify a sound, but the amount of protection that it is going to provide being in your ear, it doesn't provide it. So having an earpiece in your ear that's more of like an earbud or something that's a little bit more of a acrylic material, something like that, that's not going to seal off your ear canal. So if the hearing aid is even shut off, that sound is still going to get in. Okay. So in terms of the full spectrum of hearing protection and hearing aids and that transfer, it's not advised. There's too much risk that's involved with it. But there are, instances where you can kind of decrease the output of what the hearing aid is going to provide and kind of squashes everything into a smaller amount. Yeah.
So we got to have a little give and take here then, I assume. So if I'm a current hearing aid wearer, then this is going to be kind of what do we do? Because if we use the ear protection, then if I'm using the automatic thing, then when I'm not firing the gun, I'm probably not going to hear as well as I did with the hearing aid, my normal hearing aids.
Right. So I think that's kind of where we drill in the importance of taking care of your hearing before it does get to a point where we're in a situation where we kind of have to decide, am I going to try to protect my hearing further, or is it really important for me to be out here and hunting?
Okay. And we'll kind of circle back to some of these other cool deals, but let's focus in on protecting our hearing. We're going to take a quick little break here, but when we come back, I want to talk to you guys a bit about is a little bit of loud noise okay or not? Let's kind of get into how much is too much and all that, just so we can help guide our listeners a little bit into that. So we'll get into that and a whole bunch more right after this. It just seems like yesterday we were sitting in the heat going, ooh, this is a hot summer. What are we going to do? And we're worried about forest fires and all that. But now, all of a sudden, you feel that little tinge in the air, the crispness, and it won't be long, folks. The snow is going to fly. This is the time. If you've ever thought about getting a snowplow so you can get that driveway of yours plowed, or let's say you own a business. A lot of you need to plow that out. You can save a ton of money plowing it yourself. And I kind of think it's fun. I enjoy doing it. But the reason I'm talking about all this is Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is your Boss snowplow dealer. And Boss snowplows, I think, has just now taken it to a whole another level. They are the snowplow that you want to have. They can do so many different things. And the great thing about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is they have a full service department. They can install it. They can take you through it, show you how to operate your Boss snowplow. They can help you get financing. They have the parts. They have everything. This isn't something where, you get a snowplow and then you have problems with it or whatever, and the people that sold it to you, that's all they do is sell it. They don't want anything. Not with Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They not only do they carry the best snowplowers you can get, Boss snowplows, but They do everything from helping you pick the right one all the way through to the service after sale and all that. So get a hold of my friends at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Now, you can go see them in person in Missoula, Montana, 5680 Expressway in Missoula. Also, you can, of course, give them a call. They'd love to talk to you there. Their phone number, 406-549-4243. Or one of my favorite ways to take a look at everything they have is just go online, rmtte.com, rmtte.com, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Be ready for winter this year with a Boss snowplow and check out all their inventory and everything else. You're going to like dealing with these folks. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. And we are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. And with me, Nora Martin, Alyssa Keith, they're with Vibrant Hearing. And what we're doing today on the podcast is we're focusing in on our hearing. And we use our hearing for so many different things, but in the outdoors, it becomes a real key part of how we hunt, how we do things. And the best way, as we were just getting into before the break, the best way is to let's not damage our hearing in the first place. We have a lot of, in fact, we were just talking on the radio show a while back about getting kids involved in hunting and getting in the hunter's safety and all that stuff. Well, this is the perfect time, Mom and Dad, and also you kids that are listening. Let's protect it so you don't have to do wear hearing aids and all that. So, what can happen if we don't protect our hearing at all? And is it as soon as a loud sound hits our ears? Are we starting damage right there, or does it take a lot of repeating or that? Who wants to tackle that one?
I'll tackle that one. So the question of like how loud is too loud, right?
Yeah.
The answer is like sometimes it depends. We know that repeated exposure at levels above 85 decibels over the period of 8 hours is enough to cause permanent and irreversible damage to your hearing. You may think of like people in the industrial setting who are working construction and stuff like that. They're in it more consistently. When we look at like impulse sounds, like a rifle going off or shooting a gun or anything like that, that's loud enough that even one gunshot is enough to cause that damage to the ear. And some really good signs that you've been around something that's too loud and that it's possibly causing damage to your hearing is if you were, at a concert or you were shooting and after you're done, everything sounds kind of muffled. Mm-hmm. Or your ears are ringing for a couple of days. Usually, like the first couple times you're exposed to loud noise, those symptoms are temporary, right? And then after a few days, you feel better, whatever, it was fun. It didn't cause any lasting damage. But the more and more you're exposing yourself to that, the more likely it's going to be that's going to have a permanent impact.
Mm-hmm. So really, any time that we are going to deal with noise that's above just the normal us talking, is that when we need to focus on using hearing protection? How do we know when it's time to start using that? And I'm going to give you a little example. I won't try to drone on too long with my story, but it's an important one for me because I grew up as a kid hunting, fishing, and then working on my dad's ranch, and lots of loud noises and all that. Didn't really seem to bother me too much and all that. Well, and then I also thought, well, okay, so it harms a little. As you get older, you're going to lose your hearing anyway, so who cares? Not knowing that one day I was going to get in the music business. Well, I ended up falling in love with music and got very involved in it and found that though I thought I was a really good entertainer, I really wasn't. But what I was good at was doing all the behind the scenes stuff and producing and writing and arranging and those kind of things. And so I kind of got pretty good at it, and I was doing pretty well until the world of digital music came about, and we were able to it was almost like putting sound under a microscope, and you could hear all these little subtle things, and then all the consumer stuff got better and better and better of how you could hear it. Well, all of a sudden, I could not do my job as well because I could not hear those subtle little things. And it really affected my career at one point because I thought, well, I just really can't. When you would hear a mix that I did and then one from some of the younger guys that were in the business who really took great care of the hearing, their mix just always sounded better. Mine just kind of lived in that mid-range. The highs and lows weren't quite there. And it was frustrating for me, but I learned, okay, that's where I need to focus on things I can do. But I noticed that a lot of these younger people that were really focused on the music business really protected their hearing. They would go to concerts with ear protection and all that because that's how they made their living. So I guess what I'm saying is you never know what you're going to do and why cut those options. So to protect it in the first place. So that's hopefully I get through to you that for your kids that are now wanting to get into hunting, you bet. I think hunting is a fantastic way to get your kids out, and it teaches them conservation and respect for nature and all that, but you don't want it to also harm them. So how do we protect our hearing in these cases? So now we're saying, okay, Junior's going to get out there and he's going to get into hunting. So how do we decide what's the best ear protection for my child? And how do we pick that out? How do we fit it? What do we do? Because, you can go to a sporting goods store and there's these things, and most of the time they're very uncomfortable. And so what do our kids do? Take them off.
So as a mom, coming from a mom, it obviously depends on the age of the child, but if they're young, muffs are usually like ear muffs are the best option. Because they're easy to put on and make sure they're on correctly. Like you can physically see that they're covering the child's ear.
And we're not saying earmuffs like keep your ears warm. These are the actual
correct
headphones, hunting, or shooting protection stuff.
Right.
Okay.
Just for ease of use, and then preparing them early. You were talking about what it means to be safe while you're hunting and what all that different safety equipment looks like. And including that in that conversation and just making it very clear, that this is an important thing that we do, because how many patients do we see that have had long histories of noise exposure and just say, I just wish I would have known better, right? Or I just wish I would have
I'm one of them right there.
Right? Yeah, I just wish I would have done it earlier. And so teaching your children that value early on they're going to carry it. And then also modeling that behavior, right? So if you're going hunting and they're going to be wearing hearing protection, then you should also be wearing it, because if dad's wearing it, cool, right? If grandpa's wearing it, cool. But why am I wearing it and they're not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that kind of defeats the deal.
Right. Kids are smart.
So, are there things we should look for in picking out the right hearing protection for our kids? I mean, are there? I guess I'm trying to think of it. I mean, are certain it protects to these decibels or things like that. So, what do we look for there on the packaging to make sure this is the right thing for our kids?
So one component that's really important is the NRR rating. That's going to be your noise reduction rating. That's how much protection, usually in decibels, are certain devices or plugs giving the ear at certain levels.
The NRR. Okay.
NRR, you got it. Good NRR, you're looking at 27 to 35 decibels. A good solid earmuff, as Alyssa was saying, when you put it on their head, you want it to be covering the entire pinna, which is just that outer part of the ear, all the way from the top, all the way from the bottom. So you want it to be fully sealed off in that condition. If I would go a step further, I would also suggest the possibility of custom plugs as well as muffs. That's going to provide with extra protection for those little ears. Keep in mind that an adult ear is going to process sound extremely differently than a little ear. Even though that ear is more developed, the shape of the ear canal and how it's going to process sound is going to be much more robust than it would be for a full-grown adult. And so double up. You know, that's like the best case scenario.
So when you say the custom plugs, explain what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. So custom plugs, Alyssa touched a little bit on them earlier. Custom plugs are going to be made completely for your ear. We talked a little bit about foam plugs. We talked a little bit about those little Christmas tree plugs. One of the biggest things about those plugs that causes problems is the variability that we get them in our ear. Most people don't realize that it's not just rolling them up, sticking them in, and letting them expand. Really pulling up and back on that ear from the bottom by the lobe, really creating a huge space for that earplug to go into, getting it as far down as you can. That's really important. And when people aren't trained to do that correctly, or they're not sure how to do it, or they have an ear canal shape that just won't let them stay in, a custom plug is a really good option for that.
Are the custom plugs a little more comfortable, I assume?
They are. And, you know, they're made of a pretty durable medical grade silicone. So what a custom plug usually requires is that an impression is taken of your ear. So we put a little tiny cotton ball or a little foam ball just down into the ear canal pretty deep, never touching the eardrum or never damaging the eardrum, but getting it just far enough that we can get a good seal off of the canal. Then we shoot some impression material in there. It's usually a pretty pink color. Let it sit for about 5 minutes or so, and then you pull it out, and then there's a just nice, beautiful
so it's all perfectly
model of your
formed
ear
for your ear.
Yeah. One of the cool things too about the custom plugs, you know, if we're trying to enhance motivation for kiddos to wear them, is that they can come in a lot of cool colors, you know, like sparkle, things like that. So you can really enhance them and make them personal at all ages, which is really cool. Even adults like it too.
Now, how expensive are those? Because I can hear the miser side of me and that's saying, okay, well, if I'm going to get it fit for my kids now, they're going to get bigger, so now I got to get new ones. And
you bring up an excellent point, and that's the other thing too, is that it usually more frequently, starting at a younger age, you're looking at new plugs about every 6 months to a year. So that is one of the cons of that option. You know, you're looking at a couple $100, you know, in this area, at least for pricing relative to one that's going to be a lot more expensive of, you know, it's not thousands of dollars or anything like that.
When we look at the digital hearing protection, it's much more expensive because of that electric component. But when we talk about like just simple custom earplugs, it is usually pretty price effective, especially when you start comparing it to like the potential of having a hearing loss later on and what you're going to have to invest in hearing aids.
Well, to put it into the story that I was telling you, before all this audio got so good that you could hear it, and I couldn't do that anymore. And this is going to blow you away, but I was paid $600 an hour to do what I did. Well, guess what? When I couldn't compete anymore, I didn't make $600 an hour.
Right. Absolutely.
So I had to work twice as hard to make that kind of money. And here's these young whippersnappers in there taking my $600 an hour deal. Now, I didn't know I was going to be in the business at the time.
Sure.
Wow, that's peanuts. If I would have known and taken care of my hearing, I'd have been doing that. Now, I was fortunate enough that I adapted and found other things to do and did pretty good. But, yeah, you don't know. So why not take care of your hearing? So I get that. That makes a lot of sense. So, custom ones, if our little ones are going to be shooting guns a lot, doing a lot of stuff, makes some sense. If it's occasional, probably just the muffs might be a decent investment. And the custom ones, how much are we thinking, did you say?
Usually in priced around the couple $100 range or so. Yeah, they aren't disposable. You keep them most of the time as an adult. They last for a significant amount of time. You just want to make sure you're getting them checked every once in a while, making sure that the seal is really good and all of that.
Yeah. So mom and dad, you never know what your little one's going to be doing as an adult, so protect it. And then you can always go knock on their door when they're adults and say, hey, throw me a little cash and buy daddy a new car because I protected your hearing. Look at all the dough you're making now.
And I feel like I have to say it because I see a lot of the pediatric, just a lot of the school effects of hearing loss on pediatric as well, on pediatric patients as well. So just remembering that even if you have a loud sound, that can really cause difficulty hearing in a lot of environments that are kind of difficult for kids. So gym class, educational environment, hearing the teacher, all of those things can really be made more difficult with a hearing loss that is caused by noise. And so really being cautious and really drilling home that protection for the young ones as well is really important.
And I notice now that there are settings for video games and all that for younger kids where they can't turn the hearing, the headphones beyond that. For me, I can't use those because I would not be able to hear very well. So I have to have, as I get teased sometimes when somebody puts on my headphones and they go, those are Downrigger's headphones because they're set at stun. but I have to because I ruined my hearing. So probably a good idea to if you're a parent to be monitoring that and making sure that you set those things.
Oh yeah, it's a great point. Basically any kind of loud noise, even if you have little musicians at home that are, working on electric guitars or drummer sets or anything like that, those loud noises can also damage hearing as well. What was your previous question?
Well, so yeah, be sure and look for that. But is it though? I was always told that, some loud stuff now and then, yes, it might hurt a little, but it's not going to be that bad. It's the repetitive stuff's what really gets you. Is that true?
Correct. So in instances like AirPods or our earbuds or anything like that, talking about volume of electronics, video games, usually 50%, 50 or lower is a good kind of starting point. That's when you know that they're at a loud enough level that a child should be hearing at or a teen should be hearing at, but also at a comfortable one.
And for adults the same way. If we've cared for our hearing okay, then we should continue to do that. And I will tell you, if you really want to be a skilled hunter, and especially archery has just exploded in Montana. People love it. Well, that is all about being quiet. You want to be quiet because you have to get much closer to the game, but also it's all about so we can hear what's going on too. Now, if you want to be that really great archer, guess what? We want to take good care of our hearing. So let's look at it the other way. For some of us, how do we know that our hearing has gotten bad? And is there a way to ever get it back? So let's answer the first question. How do we know that our hearing has actually gotten bad and we're just not one of those people that didn't pay real great attention?
That's usually one of the trickier parts of hearing loss is that if it's not a sudden hearing loss or one that happens exceptionally quickly, it happens very, very slowly. So it's the little things. It's remembering, oh, I used to hear the turning signal a little bit louder, and kind of just, oh, okay. Or environmental sounds like, oh, honey, do you hear the birds? No, I don't. What are you talking about? What birds? So it's those little environmental sounds that kind of start to go first. Progressively with that, we start noticing more of that trouble speaking with people from a distance, hearing a whisper. Our communication becomes relying a little bit more on seeing the speaker's face. And also then it can progress more into interfering with speech, interfering with communication. Consonants like those F, TH, SH sounds all become kind of blurred together over time. So then things like ship might sound like, shot or other words like that. And so it's something that is very gradual. So it begins slowly. Then as it progresses over time is usually when family members start to kind of notice that difference.
Is there a way to fix that? I mean, can if it's going bad, is there ever a way to get it back, or is it just gone forever and now we got to use some way to help us here?
There are some situations where hearing loss can be caused by a medical issue where there's a chance that it can be resolved, which I think drills in the importance of like getting your hearing checked by a professional so those types of issues can be identified early on. But in the case of most hearing loss, once the damage is done, once the hearing loss has occurred, there's no regenerating the hearing. There's no getting it back. So that's when we start focusing more on treatment options for that hearing loss.
Yeah. So we want to get to it before that we get to that point. All right. So now let's move along here that we say, okay, we recognize we're not hearing as good as we used to. We've talked about some of the cool ideas of protecting and all that, but for those of us that now just don't, it's becoming a problem. Well, I'm watching TV all the time now, and I'm seeing all these ads saying, oh, you don't need to go to a place like Vibrant. I mean, you can get them for a couple $100. Are those any good? I mean, to me, it just sounds too good to be true, but I don't know. Maybe they are getting that good.
I think your instinct is correct. It's a little too good to be true. For the same point we just made, it's good to start with a professional because hearing loss can be caused by a medical issue. And so before like buying something online or the TV, you need to have a clear idea of what you're dealing with. Like how severe is the hearing loss? Is what they're selling on TV enough to even cover my hearing loss? Or am I going to just put in something that feels like an earplug? But at the end of the day, it really is kind of a you get what you pay for situation. And the hearing industry really isn't as transactional as buying something and then never seeing you again. We see our patients on a very regular basis.
Yeah, because what I hear really is when you see these things on TV or that they say, you just order them from us. What we're really talking about is just an amplifier, right? It's just a headphone.
Yeah.
In your ear, basically.
Correct. Yeah. So when you look at it, for instance, like hearing loss can be so variable. Sometimes you have different severities. It could be a little mild or it could be quite severe. Sometimes those amplifiers don't even quite make it that loud to reach some of those more severe cases. They usually can cause difficulty with fit, which can cause that perception of every hearing aid in your ear squeals when there are things that can cause some misperception based on assuming that it's the right for everybody. So just as Alyssa said, mentioning that you come in for a full evaluation by a hearing healthcare provider so that you know what you're dealing with, and then they can talk to you and let you know whether or not that would be something that you would like. An amplifier, to clarify, is going to take everything and up or down across the board. So some of them are a little bit more variable with apps on your phone. You know, you see all those things where you can have a little bit of an equalizer, switch up the treble or the bass a little bit more. But for the most part, you're looking like straight across the board, up or down. The problem is that you might not need as many low pitches as you do high pitches. And so that can create a really uncomfortable listening experience for people by giving them what they don't necessarily need.
Well, and you're also not hearing accurately.
Correct.
So again, for hunters that we say we want to go out there and hear just perfect because we're going to go find it, well, you're really not correcting the problem, are you?
You are turning up the volume.
Right, which doesn't necessarily hear, you know, the high pitched crackle of the leaves or the things like that is what we want to know, because
Correct.
that means that bull elk we've always dreamed of. He walked right by. We had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the other thing about some of those amplifiers is that there can be a little bit of a lack of personalization, right? We want to make sure that whenever someone comes to us, we're addressing what's the concern? What do you want to hear? What are you hunting? At what distance are you operating at? Those are all the things that we take into account, you know, if we're trying to help them hear better in situations that they're having difficulty in, whether it's at home or
that's
things
a really
like
good
that.
point.
Yeah.
So you're one. That makes some sense because, for example, where I have a problem, and it's interesting because now I'm kind of the one with the hearing problem.
Everyone else is
My buddy,
noticing.
Captain, who wears the hearing aids, is fine. When we're fishing and we're whipping down the water, at some point when he hits a certain noise on that motor, he's trying to talk to me. I can't hear him. I basically have to watch his lips. But yet, the guy that I used to make fun of because he couldn't hear, he can hear me. So that's a really good point. So we need to know where our deficiencies are. That's something that you can recognize.
And kind of circling back a little bit to those electronic hearing protection devices, that's where those high frequency or higher pitch programs are really great, because if you do have a hearing loss that's in those higher pitches, it can help compensate for that as well. So knowing exactly where that is, that can let you know, yes, this would be a good device for you. No, your hearing loss might be of the type that a better option might be available.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, we're going to take one more break, and when we come back, I always say I have these little radio ears where I can just kind of feel my audience out there going, but wait a minute, I don't have a hearing problem, but could these gals actually give me bionic ears where I can hear even better? So when we come back, we're going to answer that question for you, because I know that's what you're thinking out there, because I know I'm thinking that when we come back right after this. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this podcast. You folks really make the difference here for us by tuning in. But we could not do what we do at all without great sponsors like Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Now, let me kind of fill you in on what's going on there with everybody. They have so many great things. For example, they have extraordinary flooring lines. Now, a lot of their flooring is made right there. They have this huge lumber yard full of all kinds of stuff. You just got to go see it in Missoula. You can go online and take a look at all the different flooring and that. But John and Corey and the rest of the gang of Superior Hardwoods, they've been in business since 1977. You don't stay in business that long by not doing it right. Go online to superior-hardwoods.com, and you can even read the reviews from everybody. You'll get a feel that these guys really know what they're doing. They strive so hard to make sure their customers are satisfied and get what they want. So back to the flooring. Go take a look at all the different things that they can do at Superior Hardwoods. Everything from flooring that will just blow you away, and that I guarantee they have flooring in there with woods you've probably never even seen before. Then you can even go into things that can accent that. You have got to see the alder molding they have there. Unbelievable. The list goes on and on. So go to Superior Hardwoods. That's superior-hardwoods.com. Take a look at what they've got going on there online. Then you have questions. Easy. Just give them a call, 406-251-2272. Or if you want, and I think you'll love going to the showroom, it's at 5120 Highway 93 South there in Missoula. I have just talked to so many people that go, you were talking on your podcast about these guys. Well, then we went and you weren't exaggerating, Downrigger. I mean, this place is amazing, and they know so much about it. As we like to put it, they will guide you through the woods at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. You got to go see them. Superior Hardwoods of Montana. That's superior-hardwoods.com. Oh, you're going to like these folks. You're going to love the way your house is going to look when they get done with it. Go see them. And we're back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, talking with Nora Martin and Alyssa Keith, and they're with Vibrant Hearing. Boy, we're learning a lot of great stuff about really, one, protecting our hearing, two, correcting our hearing. But now let's get into the one that I was kind of wondering about is, let's say, we hear fine, but like all of us, we want to do things even better, because when I get out in the woods, I want to hear every little snap of a branch and crackle so I can even be a better hunter. Is there a way, even though we don't have a hearing problem, to make us hear even better just for like hunting or something, to give us those bionic ears? Or is that possible?
I did a little research on this because I knew you were going to ask me. And I was very curious because I hadn't heard of anything. Do you know of anything?
Not strictly
for that purpose, but there are like a number of devices on the internet that are like marketed as hearing enhancement devices for this purpose. I have never personally interacted with one, but I think if like that was something that you are looking into, when you're looking into a company that's selling a device, my first thing would be find out how loud it's amplifying, because we don't want to inadvertently cause damage to your hearing by making it too loud. And then making sure they have a very decent return policy in case it doesn't perform the way that you would hope.
Yeah.
Well, I did a little snooping on this issue as well. And what I found was a couple articles that said, don't go there because these things can actually damage your hearing.
That would be my number one fear.
That, they're playing on our desire to be able to, hear those great things. And we see in the movies where they have this, some spy has got this thing and they can hear through the wall and all that. Yeah, don't go there. Everything I've read about this is it ends up, now we have to come see you guys because we can't hear very well at all.
Right. I would invest in some very good binoculars so you can enhance your vision first.
Yeah. We are not going to be able to become a rabbit or that's...
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah,
that's their survival instinct.
Right. So we can't improve the odds necessarily. So be really careful if you think about that. Now, another big question, and this is one I speak from experience. I learned to hunt and fish from my grandpa, and he was a really cool guy. He did not hear well at all. He was a Marine Corps drill sergeant and had a long career in the Marine Corps. That was before they protected soldiers' hearing and all that, so he didn't hear very well. But one day we go out fishing and he's got some hearing aids. I said, Grandpa, you finally went and got hearing aids, because we used to have to talk pretty loud. He goes, well, a friend of mine passed away, and so his wife gave me his hearing aids. And so I'm just using those. And I went, oh, I didn't know they were interchangeable. Can you do that? Can you just get hearing aids from somebody else and, fine, I'll just use his?
I think a comparison to that is, would we operate daily with someone else's eyeglass prescription? So one of the things that we haven't talked about is the idea that hearing aids or hearing devices are prescribed based on your particular hearing loss. Everybody who has a hearing loss has a prescription, and hearing aids are designed to meet that prescription, make loud sounds loud, soft sounds soft relative to each other, but nothing should ever be too loud. So if we are operating on not understanding what our hearing loss is like, and we don't necessarily know what our friend's hearing loss is like, and then we place their hearing aid on our ears, it's really difficult to know if that's going to be the best option for them. Very similarly to going back to what I said earlier, eyeglasses, right? If I would wear Alyssa's eyeglasses, they might be quite more blurry or things like that. I might get by okay with them. I might be like, hey, I can kind of see. But in terms of knowing that that's the best prescribed option for me so that it's not damaging anything further, that would be the best option, is to make sure they're fit for you.
What I did there is known in our business as a little bit of a setup for you, because I knew you were going to answer that, but I wanted you to answer it because people tend to believe it when it comes from a professional like yourself. But the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say, with my grandpa was, he got that thinking, okay, save a lot of money, all that. He used them for maybe a week and then never used them again. Grandpa, how come you don't use your buddy Joe's hearing aids anymore? And he said, they don't work. Hearing aids, I knew it. They just don't work. My hearing's just too bad, and that's why.
Right. And
he quit using them. Well, it was because they weren't designed for him. They weren't the prescription for him.
And that's what's unfortunate about hearing aids. They get a bad rap for instances as such, different routes that we take by advertisements that we see on TV or information that we read online. And it can create problems down the road for when we're really, truly motivated. But, patients sometimes come to us discouraged because they've tried everything up until this point, and it's still an investment what you're doing. It might be online and it might be quite a bit less money, but over time that money does add up, and untreated hearing loss, appropriately treated hearing loss, is really important to do right away.
Mm-hmm. Well, and back to utilizing the captain, and I'm not breaking any HIPAA stuff, because everybody that knows the captain knows if his hearing aids aren't in, the poor guy can't really hear at all. He can't. Had he, got into it and sooner and got real hearing aids sooner and all that, it might be a different story. But now, because he uses these great hearing aids from Vibrant, I mean, you really wouldn't know that he has a hearing problem. But here's a guy that when he takes those out, he literally cannot hear. And the funny thing is, when I'm staying at his fishing camp, which is really more of a fishing glamp, it's a really nice setup at Fort Peck, I always stay in what's called the little den area, which is part of the shop, and he stays in his fifth wheel. Well, he always thinks, well, I better wake Downrigger up because, we want to get out on the water on time, and I might have a tendency to sleep in a little bit. And so he knocks and says, Downrigger's time to get up. And I yell through the door, okay, Downrigger's time to get, well, see, this is before he's putting in his hearing aids. Yeah, he cannot hear any of that. So what we're learning here today is, one, you can't use somebody else's hearing aids. Another way of looking at it is, would you take somebody else's prescription that, pills? Probably not a good idea. Could make you real sick or bad, So we need to, one, get our hearing checked, then get it prescribed for what needs to happen. and then go from there. Now, you talk about an investment. It can get a little expensive, can't it?
It can.
But yeah, go ahead.
But, like when you look at the initial upfront cost of hearing aids, I think a lot of people's reaction is like, yeah, that's a lot of money that I have to spend. But the long-term investment of it, it's something that ideally you're waking up in the morning, you're putting them in, you're wearing them all day until you go to bed. And how many other things do we use for years on end for most of our day? And so if you break it down to how much you're using the hearing aids, it looks more cost effective.
Well, like glasses, I mean, I got to wear my glasses. I happen to have one of those, I don't know, whatever you call it. I can't do the contacts, but these aren't cheap. But if I don't have them, it's not a good thing for me. I don't see very well. So same kind of thing. Now, let's get into the other side of this. We were talking a bit about tinnitus. And outdoor folks, we tend to come from professions and things like that. A lot of us do, where our hearing got damaged or whatever, we have tinnitus. Is there really a way out there to do this, to fix tinnitus with hearing aids?
I think whenever we talk about the goal of tinnitus, it's what's the goal? Is it when we say fix? Is it to cure it, to make it go away completely? Is it to...
If I could just turn it down a little, I'd be happy.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Great question. Most people who have hearing loss also have tinnitus.
Okay.
Vice versa as well. There's a small group that has tinnitus and also has normal hearing. But hearing aids can be very helpful. And there are other category of sound generators, so to speak, that are kind of emitting lower level sounds that we call maskers. Ocean sounds, white noise, things like that can kind of help offset the sound of that tinnitus, make it a lot softer than it would be without them in. Hearing aids can really help tinnitus because tinnitus is a brain source. Our ears are not giving our brain the information that it needs because we're hearing through hearing loss. It's like we're hearing through a filter. So our brain is expecting that information. It wants it and it's not getting it. And it says, hey, what gives? It can be any sound. It doesn't have to be a high-pitched sound. Tinnitus can be locusts. It can be a roaring sound. It can be a lot of different things. So noise-induced tinnitus, that's the other thing that is really important to understand, is that just like there are medical concerns underlying concerns that can cause hearing loss, there can be other things that can cause tinnitus. And so again, being assessed for that by a medical professional who knows what the causes and sources of those could be is really
our prescribed hearing aids, what we're probably going to find out is that if we have that, then we probably have a hearing loss problem, or could. And then at that point, maybe just hearing aids are going to help cure that. Is that where, not cure it, but help it?
Reduce. Yeah, absolutely.
Reduce. Okay.
Absolutely.
And how about insurance here? Because this is one that it gets kind of frustrating for us is we have a pretty high cost, and I think we've established it's worth it, but still we're all not made of money. Are insurance companies getting better about covering hearing loss or no?
Yes.
Are they?
I believe so. I think also on the other side of it, outside of insurance, not all insurances cover hearing aids. Really, the best option is to always call your insurance and ask, do I have a hearing aid benefit? Do I have any hearing benefit? Because some insurances do cover the cost of hearing protection and things like that. So it's always just best to call and ask. Never assume. Things change very quickly over time with it. And so we always want to make sure that people fully understand whether or not they do have that benefit.
Okay.
But providers outside of insurance, I think there's becoming a lot more awareness of how much of an investment that does put on a burden for people day to day, and hearing loss really causes a lot of problems. It's really important to get it treated. It can really cause us to reduce our quality of life. And so
without a doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so with that, we're always trying to think, how can we make things more accessible? What can we do? How can we provide that? Whether it's providing patients with, scholarship information or things like that. So when we look at insurance, best thing to do is to call, ask, but do know that there are some other funding sources that sometimes your local provider might know about to be able to help you.
So is there just some financing kind of things out there that do you guys do that at Vibrant, or do you go to your bank? Because I'm sure I would hope there's ways to do that.
Yeah. So at Vibrant, we offer like a number of different financing options.
Oh, really?
So, some, I'm sure you've heard of Care Credit, where you can do like no interest payment plans. We do other, payment installment plans that have low monthly payments. Obviously we can't speak for every provider out there, but I think it's worth calling if there's someone else in your area that you're looking to see, I really want to treat my hearing loss, but it's a big financial decision for me. What are my options?
Well, I want everyone to keep listening to this podcast, because there's going to be a part 2 to this. And that is, I'm going to go to Vibrant and have my hearing checked. This is news to you guys.
This is news.
Yeah,
I'm thrilled.
Well, I'm kind of excited because I've suffered with tinnitus or tinnitus, or however you want to say it, for a long time. And I want to fix it. And my kids and my grandkids have told me time and time again, Papa, you don't hear so well. And so I'm going to move out of the stubborn world and give this a try. So what we're going to do, folks, is I'm going to do a little check back here and see how it went and how we do it and go from there, because this is going to be kind of interesting. And I'm going to record some of it as I go through it, so that we'll be able to play back for you guys a little bit of my appointment and how it all goes. So,
wow, I'm so excited for you.
Too.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This was a big step, but as we got to talking, I want to hear better, and I want to do,
That's so awesome.
And
it's very cool.
Move that way, because I got a lot of living yet to do, and especially those of us that got hooked on the outdoors, we really love life, and we love to get out there and enjoy that. I think so many of you that haven't got into the outdoors yet, maybe you're just kind of thinking about it, and that's why you've come on this podcast. Boy, when you really start to go out and enjoy what Montana has to offer, my goodness, what a great life we have. And it goes. So I don't want to miss any of that, and I know I'm missing a big part of it. So it's going to be time to do that. So I'm excited, and we're going to go give this a try. So I hope everybody stays tuned, because part 2 will be, how did it go for old Downrigger? And maybe my headphones won't be on stun anymore. So.
Right. Awesome.
Is there anything else you guys would like to say or cover for our audience that we maybe haven't touched on yet, or any of that?
Yeah, I think if you're not sure, like if you're going to be heading into an environment where you're not sure if it's going to be so loud to cause damage to your hearing, there's a lot of resources even on our smartphones that can that there's apps that measure decibel levels.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
There's settings on, at least on iPhone, I can't be sure about Androids, that will warn you if you are in an environment that is exceeding what's considered to be a safe level of noise. Even on, at least on iPhones, there's like headphone tracking that will tell you if you're listening to your headphones too loud.
I've seen that before, yeah.
Yeah, so
it tells me all the time I'm listening to my headphones too loud.
Right? So
I can't help it now.
So if that's happening, then you should probably schedule an appointment to get a hearing test. But I feel like just being more informed about the different environments that you're in is a really easy, no-cost way to evaluate the amount of
Sure.
noise exposure that you have.
How do we get in touch with you guys to learn more about this and schedule an appointment?
So you can always call our office. That phone number is 406-549-1951.
That'll be in the podcast description, by the way, folks. So you don't have to hurry and try to write it down. It'll all be there for you. But
And then we have an email that's info@vibranthearing.com.
info@vibranthearing.com. And that's where you guys can get lots of questions answered. I'm going to have that emailed there for you too. And shoot these two a bunch of questions because they really have been helpful to me. I mean, look, I'm going to go try it. So there you go. If for our listeners that are outside of the Western Montana area and all that, are there ways you can kind of help them find providers in their area or anything like that?
I would definitely just start with a Google search and see which providers. A lot of reviews is always a good sign. Scouring, websites, calling around and asking, if you have a specific need, asking, do you do custom hearing protection? Do you, will you do a consultation on whether my hearing protection's fitting properly? What's the hearing test process like? And just really vetting out and making sure that the person that you're going to is someone that, understanding that you're going to have a long-term relationship with them.
Well, and Vibrant has not only helped the captain, but helped several of our other listeners and all that. So, and chances are, if you're like most Montana folks that love the outdoors, you're coming through Western Montana anyway. So, feel free to shoot me an email or go to info@vibrant.com and let them know when you're coming through town, set an appointment, and they can help you because you guys have really helped a lot of our listeners and that. And it's important that all of you can hear well so you can keep tuning into this podcast and everything else. How about you, Nora? Anything else that you want to share with us before we head out?
I think kind of just branching off a little bit from the hearing protection side, for our outside Montana listeners, really doing that similar process when you're looking for starting the hearing amplification process, making sure that you're comfortable with your provider, making sure you're understanding what the provider's process is for treating your hearing healthcare, and then making sure that you're just a good fit for them, because it is something that you do build a relationship with your hearing healthcare provider. You learn about the environments that your patients are in, and you can really start to build that trust and relationship with someone who does good practices. Yeah. And so really, really exploring that option. If you're not happy with the first place you go, don't be discouraged. Try the next place, because there are so many different models of what we do, and finding that model to really help you hear your best is super important. You have to be comfortable.
Well, do what we do here as hunters. Hunt down the one you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look around, find the thing that you're looking for. We know how to do that. As
Yeah.
outdoor folks, we like to hunt. So do the same thing with your hearing care too. Anyway, folks, stay tuned. You're going to hear more about how I did here and all that. I want to thank both of you very much for spending so much time with me and helping us learn a little bit more so that we save the hearing we have and hear better, so we can really hear all that Montana has to offer us.
Thank you so much
you.
for having
Happy to be
us.
All right, so there you have it, folks. Again, go to the podcast description, get your emails into us and all that, and we'll get things going for you. It should be a lot of fun to find out how old Downrigger goes in his next adventure to hearing better right here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.